Peace. Welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about when the Sheriff's Department challenges federal law. We'll talk about this organization of right-wing conservative sheriffs that is spreading a message that is affecting the country on the low. And we're going to talk about where they stand as they are looking to oppose federal law for certain issues. So we'll have a conversation about that. Also, we're asking the question, are elections bad for democracy? This is based on a New York Times piece that said that we are embracing the wrong system in choosing our political leaders. I'm gonna break it down for you as to what the solution could possibly be to change how we govern in America. Later, the GOP, the big debate is happening tonight. Are you going to watch, folks? We're going to talk about what to watch for, what to listen for, and other things relating to the GOP. And later on, Sha'Carri Richardson is back in the spotlight. This time, she has made herself a major comeback story in sports. We're asking the question, is she one of the best comeback stories in sports this year? We'll talk a little bit about her. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, missed y'all yesterday, so I'm so happy to be with you today for a live show. And we got some great things coming up for you, some great conversations. I got my sister from another mother, Suzette Speaks. She's going to be joining us in a few moments. But folks, I want y'all to check, definitely join us in a conversation. They're only one of the few digital shows where you are actually a part of the culture, part of the discussion. And I'm so happy to have you here as part of my culture crew for the day. Make sure y'all check us out. It's streaming on a number of platforms, including blackstarnetwork.com. Of course, that's our home platform, blackstarnetwork.com. And we're also streaming on Amazon News right now. We're streaming there. You can find us on Fire TV. Just ask Alexa to pull up. But Alexa, play news for Black Star Network. And guess what, folks? Bing bong. You'll see my face pop up right now. So you can check us out there. And we're streaming on Plex TV. Big shout out to Plex. As you can search for Black Star Network. You can find us in the live TV. Then go to News and Opinion. And there it is for on Plex TV. Now, on the social media side, we are streaming on Facebook as of right now, as well as on YouTube. Just go to Roland Martin's YouTube page and you will see us streaming there live. And that's where you can join the conversation, being part of our culture crew for the day, right there on Roland Martin's YouTube page. And of course, folks, throughout the show, we always shout out those who are able to give, continue to support us here at Black Star Network. So if you enjoy the conversation, you enjoy the conversation in the chat, you enjoy the whole setup of everything, make sure you give a little something, because it is your donation that makes all the difference in the world in supporting the news and the type of programming we have here on Black Star Network. So again, we thank you for your support. All right, I got my culture crew that's checking in right now. I got my big pastor, Pastor Damon Blissett. Man, Pastor, good afternoon, sir. Hey, King and Queens. Tiana, you said, hey, y'all. Hey, Tiana, good to connect with you. Lori Parks, yep, Lori Parks is part of the Church of the Black Members. There we go. That's hit it up by our great pastor, Pastor Damon. Thank you so much, Lori. Good to connect with you. Deidre, I see you, sis. Thank you so much for checking in. Soka's Adventures, God, Wednesday afternoon. Soka's Adventures, thank you so much for checking in. My man, Brian Christian. Brian, good afternoon. Thank you again for being a part of the conversation. I look forward to hearing what you got to say. You don't like my music? You say, hey, Tiana and crew. I hear that. You don't like my music. Thank you so much, bro, for checking in. Anastasia Paget. Anastasia, peace and love to you too, sis. Thank you so much. Cindy D. Hello, Cindy. Good to connect with you once again. Pauline, Miss Pauline, thank you so much as she checks in from the great city of Cleveland. Of course, folks, Karen Connor. Karen, my sister, Says Karen, thank you so much. Continue to do the great work that you have been called to do, and we will continue to support you. My sister Robin Welch checking in as always. Happy Wednesday, Robin. Thank you so much for checking in. And I know folks are still coming into the room. So again, folks, we are streaming live on YouTube. Go into Roland Martin's YouTube page and join us in the chat and be a part of our culture crew for the day. Oh, I got my man Jeremy Campbell. Good afternoon, Jeremy. Good to see you and so many others. Alex Marsh Adams, thank you, Alex, for checking in. And y'all see my sister Suzette Speaks is in the chat. There we go. Suzette is in the chat, always bringing the love and so much more. There we go. All right, let's bring Suzette into the frame now because she jumped all in the chat, all up in the business. Hey, Suzette, my sister from another mother, checking in all the way from the great city of Miami, Florida. My sister Suzette, an attorney. She is the host of her own show, the Suzette Speaks Show on YouTube, streaming right there. Make sure y'all support her on Pantheon and all of everything that she's doing. But Suzette Speaks.
Hey, what's up, Farajii? Good to be here as always. Shout out to the culture crew.
Yes. Let's go. All right, Suzette. This was something that I saw, and I was like, I gotta have Suzette's take on this. This is concerning here, Suzette. The first story about what's going on with sheriff's departments across the country is concerning. I just happened to come across this, and I'm thinking to myself, why isn't this not like front page news? Absolutely. Here's the situation, folks. There are a number of sheriff's departments right now that are in limbo as to how they're going to proceed, and more importantly, how they're going to handle certain laws coming down from the federal government. Well, folks, there is a group of right-wing sheriffs that is challenging federal law. And guess what? Their influence is gaining across the country. This is a part of a group of sheriffs that call themselves the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, which was founded back in 2011 by a former Arizona sheriff, Richard Mack. The group is called, again, Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. And Suzette, they have a very interesting mission statement. Let me just share with you, with folks, what this mission statement is. They believe that the sheriffs must protect, quote unquote, protect their citizens from the overreach of an out of control federal government by refusing to enforce any law they deem unconstitutional or unjust. Yes. Suzette, help me to understand, sis. Help me to understand.
Again, always a pleasure, Farajii, and this is why I love Black Star Network and what Roland Martin is doing and what you were doing,
absolutely,
brother, through this platform, because we aren't talking about this. And again, the FBI has already let us know or put out public statements that the number one danger to the American democracy as we know it is homegrown terrorists and extremists. And I am not saying that this group is defined by the FBI as such. However, we see a lot of the same murmurings around this group, and I'm glad, again, we're covering it. So the CSPOA, I'm saying it again, the CSPOA, this group is kind of camouflaging, I think, what can be a very nefarious intent. Now, as Farajii has explained, this sheriff back in 2010, he says, but as of officially in 2011, who was duly elected as a sheriff in Arizona back in, I think it was 2009, came up with this idea and has recruited about 10% of all sheriffs sworn throughout the United States to this group. Now, the definition of what he believes a sheriff does is that the sheriff takes an oath to protect the Constitution of the United States. By said definition of this oath that the sheriff takes, he argues that the sheriff is more powerful than any elected official, even the governor, and even the United States government as a whole. The argument that they're making is that if the sheriff believes that there are even laws, for example, that infringe upon, say, the Second Amendment and other rights, that they, as the sheriff in that county, do not have an obligation, and in fact are obligated to the opposite, to protect their citizens from tyranny, from overreach, from the federal government. So that's not how our system works here in terms of the federal system that we have and the constitutional republic that we have here in the United States. But they are making waves because if sheriffs across the country now think that they supersede the lawmakers, the judiciary, and the other branches of our federal government, then we have a huge problem that can form the basis of what many constitutional scholars say is the same sentiments of insurrection that we saw outright on January 6th, but it is actually, against the very foundations of how our system operates. But I want to get into this, Farajii. You sent me down a rabbit hole of research when you brought up this topic, because I'm so intrigued by the lack of basis for what they're arguing and how, but they are successfully converting more people to this idea that the sheriff is the end-all, be-all constitutional officer of their county, and that they can supersede any other law that they deem unconstitutional wherever they are elected by the people.
Hey, look, let me tell you. I found this story way down in the timeline of stories on AP News, and I said to myself, whoa. We gotta take a quick pause, because when we come forward, Suzette, I want to share with you and of course with the crew, let's talk about how much of an influence this ideology is having hold with people. Here's the thing though, I'm glad you said it. There are two things that I can see essentially wrong with this. One is that the sheriff is operating as if it's an independent entity, independent government agency outside of any other law enforcement. But two, here's the big thing. If the sheriff starts to think or starts to challenge federal law that they deem to be quote unquote unjust, it opens the door, to your very point, it opens the door for all types of tyranny, for all types of abuse. It opens the door to justified treason.
There you go.
Justified treason. Now, the crazy part about it is that in every single state in the United States of America, there's a sheriff's department. Every state has a sheriff's department. Can y'all imagine? I want y'all to think about this, crew. Then we're going to take a quick pause. Can y'all imagine that and we don't know which departments may be influenced by this philosophy or this ideology. So can y'all imagine that in the state that you're currently in, the state you live in, that the sheriff's department is working from this type of thinking? And you saying a rabbit hole in terms of understanding, I'm trying to figure out if any department starts to subscribe to this level of ideology, wouldn't that be the basis? Wouldn't that be the reason for that sheriff department to be shut down? I'm just saying from a legal perspective, Suzette.
We're going to handle it after the break, Farajii. Let's get into it.
Folks, stay with us. Join us in the conversation. Crew, hit us up on our chat as we're streaming live on YouTube on the Roland Martin. I would love to get your take on this. When the sheriff's department challenges federal law, that's the big conversation that we're having right now with my sister Suzette Speaks and you. Stay with us. The conversation continues on the other side here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We're talking about what is the latest situation going on with sheriff's departments across the country, as there are a group of sheriffs who are pushing back and challenging federal law, any law that they deem to be unfit, a law that they might consider to be unjust. And these sheriffs are organizing themselves to not just make these challenges in policy, but they're also made the decision that they're not going to enforce any type of federal law that they just simply don't like. Now, I want you to think about the implications of this, folks. If the sheriff's department decides which federal law they want to uphold versus other laws they want to uphold, then what metric are they using? What is the standard of justice that they are going to use when approaching us or approaching anyone? We are having this conversation right now. We want you to join us in the discussion as we're streaming live on Facebook and on Roland Martin's YouTube page. And we want you to hear what you have to say. I'm also checking in with my sister, our great legal mind and expert, Suzette Speaks, checking in from Florida. Suzette, I want to bring you back into the frame. All right, so here's the thing, Suzette. Isn't this illegal?
Yes. The bottom line is, they don't have any constitutional grounds. And I want to get into a little bit of the philosophy, because it's important to understand how they are trying to literally undermine the rule of law as we know it in our country. So if you go to their website, the CSPOA.org, we're not promoting it. I want y'all to look and see the craziness, right, that they are trying to use to subvert our very system of government. But they're saying through their founder, Richard Mack, I've watched several interviews by him, and some of the statements, again, they sound good on the surface, but what it leads to is that, again, it identifies the sheriff only as this kind of standalone officer within our system of government that can decide, and as you pointed out, becomes like a sole arbiter for what is constitutional and what is not. And it therefore leads the sheriff to have the authority in their philosophy to not enforce, for example, mask mandates, not enforce, vaccines, not enforce, termination of pregnancies or any other same-sex marriage and those type of things. They can say that's not in the Constitution according to what they're promoting in their propaganda. So when I looked and I thought, where the heck are they getting this authority? There was a case that this sheriff, Richard Mack, again, the founder back in 2011, he was involved in a case in 1997 that went up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And it's called Prince v. United States, right? USC, 521 USC 898. You can look up the case. So in this case, he, along with other sheriffs, went to all the way to the Supreme Court to argue that the Brady Bill, if you remember 1997, Brady bill was named for a government official who was, shot at, and it was supposed to be gun reform. And in a part of this Brady bill, there was a provision that required local sheriffs to conduct background checks. Well, these sheriffs filed a lawsuit, made it all the way to the Supreme Court to say no, they're not required under, and they were arguing the 10th Amendment that they could not be forced to do the background checks. And the Supreme Court ruled in their favor. Again, this was a very narrow ruling, not all encompassing on every law, but in this case, the Supreme Court did side with them, the plaintiffs, the sheriffs in the case, to say that you cannot be mandated, because the 10th Amendment in kind of summary says that any laws that are not enumerated by the U.S. government falls back to the state. So they're using this one very narrow case ruling to now say, well, we don't have to enforce any law, because look, the Supreme Court is the one that gave us the authority that we didn't have to enforce background checks at the local level, at the sheriff level for the Brady bill. So therefore, we don't have to enforce any law, again, that they deem to be unconstitutional. So they're trying to kind of frame this as they are the protectors of freedom, and as of it comes down to different laws, especially when it comes to Second Amendment laws, et cetera, et cetera. But I also want to point out that the founder, Richard Mack, is also affiliated with the Oath Keepers. And you have to remember who these people are. These folks came into existence after the election of President Barack Obama. And Oath Keepers have been called the extreme right-wing kind of insurrectionist organization that many of whom participated in January 6th and have been convicted by a court of law, sought to overthrow our government. So he was on the board of Oath Keepers. He says he's no longer affiliated with the group, but it shows online that he has strong affiliations with their founder, Stuart Rhodes. So again, Oath Keepers has already been declared one of these extremist right-wing organizations that has sought to, from the election of Mr. Obama, former President Obama, to say that we do not have to do what you have to say, federal government. We can, quote, stand for the people. So this propaganda is very inviting. And again, we talked about it last Wednesday, how Fox News, who was sued for $700 million, that told people every day that Mr. Trump won. Not to digress too much, but we know the power of propaganda when people are only taking in certain information. And what is most dangerous is that they are having conferences. They are having, as we read in this article here, all kinds of trainings that are educating sheriffs in this type of mentality, which again, it's kind of the propaganda that led to the 2020 election lies and the insurrection that we saw on January 6th. So even in Texas, for example, there are classes that every sheriff, just like any other professional, has to take, continuing education classes. There were conferences sponsored by this group that earned them official credit towards, their licensures and keeping their license up to date. So we're looking at a movement that can be quite dangerous for our government as we know it. So I'm grateful that we are shining a light on it today.
Let me tell you something, and thank you so much, Suzette, for giving us some context and some of the backstory around this. And I'm right there with you. This is not good at all. Keenan, can we show quote number 2? Because this is coming from AP News as they reported this piece. Let me just share with y'all how serious this is. I want you to look at the first paragraph talks about some of the things that the sheriff's group has railed against: gun control laws, COVID-19 mask mandates, public health restrictions, as well as alleged election fraud. Has also quietly spread its ideology across the country, seeking to become more mainstream, in part by securing state approval for taxpayer-funded law enforcement training, as Suzette was just talking about, the Howard Center for Investigative Journalism found. Take a look at this part, folks. Second paragraph. The group has held formal trainings on its constitutional curriculum for law enforcement officers in at least 13 of those states and six states. The training was approved for officers' continuing education credits, as Suzette spoke about. 13. The group also has supported who sit on 3 state boards in charge of law enforcement training standards.
Farajii, so
let me just tell you, like when you talk about insurrection, when you talk about revolution, quote unquote, right? And we can use revolution on both sides of the aisle, both sides of the coin. When you have that level of deep-seated connection, Suzette, where you're not only, and one of our crew members made this point, talking about you want to be judge, jury, and executioner. If you have a sheriff that's subscribed to this ideology, but then you have a sheriff's board member who subscribed to the ideology, and then that person is connected to a lawmaker who subscribed to the ideology. Y'all see the connection here?
Yes.
You're talking about undermining the foundation of not just public trust, but you're talking about undermining the foundation of democracy in a very, very dangerous way. And as we know, Suzette, you know, I know, crew members know, this, even though we call ourselves the United States of America, states have a lot of power, especially when it comes to policing, right? When it comes to policing policy. And a lot of money is spent on policing. It comes from the state government. So can y'all imagine? And guess what? I don't know about y'all, like in the state of Maryland, like the sheriff, we don't run too much into the sheriffs until something serious really happens. Mm-hmm. But in certain cases, and I know you know this, Suzette, the sheriffs takes precedent over the city, over city police, right? Yeah. They have a much larger jurisdiction. So when you're looking at that level of, oh man, what's the word I'm looking for? When you have that level of control and power and influence, now you're talking about something that when we're talking about January 6th, it's not just a quote unquote a fluke that some of our elected officials, state officials, and other folks who was a part of that, who have been a part of that January 6th situation, guess what? They're working on the boards. They're at the sheriff's department. They're in various state agencies that dictate and determine policy for Black people, for white people in states across this country. This is so dangerous. And again, folks, I'm just saying, AP brought this up, but I'm saying, are we really, when we talk about law enforcement, what's the word? Reform,
right?
This is a different level of reform.
Yes, sir.
This ain't just talking about, hey, man, make sure that you don't bust somebody in the head because, you know, of a stop and frisk policy. How do you stop this, Suzette? Let me, from a legal perspective, can anything be done to stop this? Because as you mentioned, the movement is spreading. Yeah. 13 states, 6 states have already approved of this type of constitutional training.
Coursework, yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah.
And guess what? How much you want to bet? How much you want to bet, Suzette? Those 6 states are Republican-controlled states.
Yeah, with kind of checkered, you know, pasts when it comes to the relationship between law enforcement and the people of those states. Now, I'm looking at it as, you know, why would they want to create this sort of grassroots movement in order to radicalize our sheriffs is really what I see is happening. So if you look at this movement, I was reading a survey done by the Marshall Project that said half of sheriffs said they had the authority to not enforce certain rights if they felt it was against the Constitution. Not to say that they are all reliant upon the CSPOA, but the fact that half of them think that it's their job via this oath that to protect the Constitution means they don't have to do what state governments tell them. They don't have to do what federal governments tell them is so dangerous. Like it is the antithesis of what we are fighting for every day when we're here on this program talking about exercise your right. But think about the undertones of why it was even created. And I just thought it made me think about post-Civil War occupation of the southern states when the Union Army had to send people, 20,000 troops. To give us an idea, back then there were 57,000 troops total in the Union Army, and we're talking about after the Civil War, 1865 to the end of Reconstruction, 1877. And we're looking at what happened and why they were sent into the states was to ensure that the states did not deem themselves to have more authority than the federal government when it came to certain laws. They were patrolling polling stations, making sure that people could vote, etc. And what are these people doing now? As a part of the CSPOA, they had set up hotlines so that people can call the sheriff if they thought there was something bogus happening at the polling station and that people were infringing on the act of voting, so that they could regulate who was going to the polls and how, and if it was something that was needing to be corrected. I've even heard in interviews, their founder, Richard Mack, tried to use Rosa Parks and what happened to her as a guide for his followers, and to say that, as a peace officer, remember the title has constitutional sheriffs and peace officers, that Miss Rosa Parks should not have been taken off the bus by following a bad law. She should have been escorted by the peace officers safely home. They're kind of rewriting that history.
Come on, man. Come on. We got it.
People are just eating it up, though. That's what is really scary. You have sheriffs that are buying into this ideology.
Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's get into what the crew is saying about this. Folks, we're trying to share with you as much information about CSPOA as possible, and more importantly, keeping you informed, because, folks, we can't talk about it. This is very deep-seated. This is right there to undermine the foundation of everything we stand on. And more importantly, let me just say this very quickly. Black America, we have always looked to federal law for justice. But what happens when federal law is not considered? What happens when the Supreme Court can't save us, when the legislative branch can't save us, or the executive branch can't save us, because we live in states where people are saying, bump the law, federal law. We're going to do it our way. What will happen? Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, more conversation. Stay with us. It's The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about a group of right-wing sheriffs that is looking to influence sheriff's department across the country, as they are also looking to challenge federal law that they deem to be unjust. This is the group of Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. I want y'all to know who they are. CSPOA. This is the website right here, folks. And these are the group of sheriffs that are slowly influencing sheriff's departments across the country to essentially challenge federal law. And guess what? As our great culture crew has talked about, and let me just say this, Brian, you brought up the question. You said, talking about Mr. Mack, who started the CSPOA, you said the dude is bugging. How the hell is sheriff more important than the lawmakers? Facts, bro. Because if the sheriff decide to not follow the law in enforcing the law coming down from the federal government, then essentially, and they create their own policy, then the sheriff becomes the new lawmaker and the enforcer of the law.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Let me bring my sister Suzette Speaks back into it. Brian, great question. Let me just say this. Let me just share a couple of more comments from the crew, because folks are, a lot of people, Suzette, just did not know. And I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I didn't know that this movement was growing until after doing some research around this. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. We got to bring this to the crew. We got to shine some light on this, because this affects every one of us. I know that in some states, like I said, in Maryland, yes, you have the sheriff's department, right? But it's brought in on certain cases, but the sheriff's department in other states becomes the primary law enforcement agency, right? Especially if you're looking at a lot of these southern states like Georgia and Alabama, states where our people are have a high number of residents, those southern states. Andrew Walker, you checked in, you said the sheriff's sole purpose is to enforce the law as it stands. Facts. If you're talking about changing the law, saying you're not going to enforce the law and that you're going to put some other law into effect, this is a dangerous, I can't say it's enough to that, dangerous precedent that's being set by this group of quote unquote law-abiding agencies.
Yeah, and
this is dangerous.
The idea that they alone are the sole interpreters, arbiters of what the Constitution means, and we know that.
Come on, man. Come on.
Scholars for over 200 years interpreting.
Hey, King, bring me back in. Hold on. I gotta say this, because see, this is the bullshit. Here's the bullshit, y'all. They throw the word Constitution again because we as Black folks, right? Even though the Constitution clearly states that we're still 3/5 of a human being, we still, and I'm saying in terms of culturally and historically speaking, we have a lot of faith in the Constitution as Black people in this country, right? Because even though the Constitution does not fully affirm our identity or our humanity,
for sure,
we still believe that the laws in the Constitution are good laws, are good mandates, right? So if we're starting to see more and more of this, especially coming from the right, you throw the word Constitution into your title, you throw your word Constitution into your mission statement, and now you're insinuating that what's happening now is not following the Constitution, and you're also insinuating that you're actually following the law.
So yeah, this is not England pre, the establishment of the United States, where, you had shires where the word sheriff comes from, and people looked to lawmen to be the arbiters when there were not, courts available, and you had local authorities kind of dealing out justice. We are not that. So when it comes to this sort of like, we alone can interpret, not the judiciary, not the legislatures, and again, in the same Constitution, it bestows those powers upon these people. You are now trying to create an out, basically, when you don't agree with the policies of a certain individual, president, governor, party, etc. You now can say, because it does not align with what's in the Constitution, and I took an oath to the Constitution. I do not have to enforce this. This sets such a dangerous precedent. There are already sheriffs operating as such in Texas, in Arizona, and other places where they have said outright, governor mandate what? Masks? No, we're not going to enforce that. Other parts of the law that they don't agree with, they can choose to say it's not in alignment with our Constitution. Again, we have seen our Constitution amended. Again, we weren't even people. We weren't allowed to vote. Our ancestors weren't allowed to vote. Then we changed it, added an amendment. Women weren't allowed to vote. We added amendments. It has changed because of the interpretation of how human beings see one another. So the fact that there is so much gray area, even now, when we decide on what is legal, what is illegal, what the courts now say, can stand, wasn't, even enforceable 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 20 years ago. We know that it evolves in terms of the idea that it is a living, breathing document, as opposed to what they're promoting, which is what we call a strict constitutionalist, or people who want to say basically, what did the founding fathers say? Right? This is like a Justice Scalia and others who say we interpret it only as it was intended back during the writing of the Constitution. But again, we weren't even considered full human beings at that time. So when we look at this again, there is this kind of white supremacy, right-wing undertone to all.
Oh, absolutely.
So no matter what, y'all can't tell us what to do. Federal government, again, reminiscent of parts of our history that we seem to be repeating, where Rutherford B. Hayes, back after the end of, Reconstruction, said, you know what, I have to cut a deal to become president. We'll take the troops out of the South, y'all. Y'all can do what y'all want, and welcome Jim Crow, right? So we don't want to repeat this by standing idly by. And again, our federal law enforcement agencies and our courts, people need to be taking up court cases when people are saying they're not enforcing things. I know in Florida, the governor can remove constitutional officers here. So I don't know how you think you're above every law and every other elected official. But there are legal recourses that we can take to kind of mitigate and stop this proliferation of this ideology that is reminiscent of the insurrectionist ideology that we saw, and we are now still ongoing trying to hold people accountable for. This state of governance is so delicate that this ideology can quickly take hold, and we have a whole different country. We have to really be on the lookout and try to use, I think, legal recourse to course correct, and also maybe starting other types of organizations that actually promote what the role of a sheriff is, and to, form a counterweight to some of what is being, preached as truth, to our law enforcement officers.
Absolutely, and you said it earlier, and I want to emphasize it again, Suzette. Homegrown domestic terrorism is the #1 threat to American democracy. Homegrown domestic terrorism. And here's the other thing that I learned in understanding, like, some of the Oath Keepers. You do have some militias that are looking at trying to create a race war. But do you know that the #1 issue that a lot of these groups, right-wing groups, militia-type groups, the #1 issue that they have with this country, it's not with Black people. Some of them just don't believe. They like, man, we don't care about Black people. Black people shooting and killing each other. We killing each other. They killing each other off. They're not a problem. The #1 target for a lot of these groups, y'all can check it, is the federal government. It is not people, it's government. And in their ideology, they have a problem with the United States government. That's why I said homegrown domestic terrorism is the #1 threat to American democracy. All right, let me just share with some more folks here. Cindy D, you say FBI Director Chris Wray said that years ago, Farajii. Absolutely. And guess what? He said that years ago, and guess what? It's manifested even more and more and more now. Question is, how many people, Cindy, actually heard him? How many agencies, what is the legislative, the executive branch, and the judicial branch, how many of them taking that situation seriously? Because we act like that's never going to happen. That happens in other countries. It's not going to happen. Yes, it can. Look at the breakdown in America politics and the polarization that we are all experiencing right now. Man of God, you checked in and said, falling apart, facts. Falling apart. Relax Library. Thank you so much, man of God. Relax Library. You asked the question, how do you uphold the Constitution when you're ignoring people's rights to due process? This ain't about no damn Constitution. Look, come on, let's keep it real. The fact that Trump's appeal to some parts of some citizens in this country, it's not about no damn Constitution. Because a lot of folks don't know the Constitution. Let's keep it real. Trump don't know the Constitution. It's not about Constitution. This is about white supremacy. This is about control and power. This is about how can I get mine at the expense of somebody else getting theirs. This is not about Constitution. We're trying to uphold the republic. Oh, no, that's a bunch of BS, man. This is about power and control. This is about the idea that white people, white privilege, white supremacy, all are ideas that are falling apart every single day. And guess what? There are some white folks in this country who are just outraged and afraid that they are losing power and control. That's what this is about. McCole Spicer, you said what they are really saying is we want to be able to do whatever we want to whoever we want and however we want to without any accountability. Power without a checks and balances system. Facts. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's one of the big issues that these groups have. That America has a checks and balance system, Suzette, and that you can't just do whatever you want. You can't just run up on the Capitol and not expect some consequences. You can't just talk about shooting and killing public, political officials or even the president of the United States and not expect, why is the FBI at my door? I forgot the general's name. He's posting all types of stuff. This is just like in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, threatened President Biden. Yeah.
Threatened President Biden.
You can't.
And guess what?
Yeah.
Guess what happened? Guess who knocked on that door? Sir, we saw we were monitoring your post, and he talking all this riffraff, talking about come and get me. The government, the FBI can't do nothing. Blah, 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 blah. Got shot and killed by FBI.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And some people, and I'm gonna say it like this: there are some white people who do not like to be held accountable for what they think nor what they do, and they can't handle it. So they are above the law. Everybody else, we got to follow the law. But when you start start really talking about reigning in power and control, when you start talking about the how the country is moving into a diverse space. And how, quote unquote, it's better for the country, man, homegrown terrorists are being radicalized each and every day in this country, Suzette.
Yeah, that's why this is so, I don't mean to interrupt, but just why this type of group is so dangerous, because it legitimizes it, right? It has a nice, clean, shiny exterior. People look as if they're, again, freedom fighters, right? We are the last stop before, tyrannical government, that IRS. You shouldn't have to follow their rules because, again, that's unconstitutional. And every other part of the law that they, nitpick through and say, this is not something that we want to enforce. It's, again, a dangerously slippery slope into chaos, right? And forever making our country as we know it, just kind of like this kangaroo court of such implications as you talked about, that it could be, our lives, whose lives, whose rights under this Constitution do they really want to uphold? So it, again, for them to believe and to promote this ideology, again, it reeks of what led to thousands of people standing up, quote unquote, for freedom as they thought they were. Many of them during their testimony, during their January 6th trials, claimed that, again, the president himself told them to come and protect freedom. This is just another dog whistle for we don't want certain people in power to be able to tell us what to do. Again, as you pointed out, the federal government and its quote overreach is something that we need to fight against. and that we have to protect people against. We are, again, the defenders of freedom. And it sounds, deceivingly so noble that I keep thinking about how many people will sit in their conferences, give money on their website. They got, cash coming in, I'm sure. And others who are like-minded, maybe not even openly, that support what they're doing, that approve their classes for continuing education and can approve, them to speak at certain things and, align themselves, not really, but kind of with Oath Keepers, but he's not a part of that anymore. They all are kind of cut from that similar cloth, again, that doesn't see the government as it is today as legitimate. And so therefore, they have the right to bear arms. And again, from the sheriff's office, of all places, to say, no, we are the peacekeepers of this society. The militia, as they define it, is the people. We are allowed to create voluntary militias and all kinds of stuff. I was watching so many videos today. I was like, what in the world?
And guess what? And it's all from the sheriff's department.
It's crazy.
That is crazy. Look, Nicole, you said this. What's the telephone number to the news media, ABC, NBC, CBS, that we can call and tell them to report on this sheriff fiasco? Let me tell you, we don't need to call them. We're having a conversation. Make this conversation viral, Nicole. If everybody needs to know this, then guess what? Make this conversation viral because this is coming from a black perspective. Because guess what? Guess who's going to take the brunt of this type of ideology, of this type of some level of just this challenge? Guess who takes the brunt of that? We will. We will. So you can tell other news agencies to report on this, but more importantly, make this viral, because this is Black America. This affects Black America. We do not have a functional healing relationship with the sheriff's department like we don't have with the police departments in cities across this country. Sheriff's department, our relationship with the sheriff's department is just as toxic as ever. It's the sheriff's department when we look at the civil rights movement and who enforced those laws, and they were working from that same vein. They didn't talk about it, but they worked from the same vein. The law might say civil rights. The law might say you have to integrate schools. You have to integrate places. And guess what? Sheriff's departments fell under certain governors and certain lawmakers and say, we're not doing that.
And we had to put federal troops at the doorstep.
Federal troops in Little Rock, Arkansas, and other places across this country, because the state said we refuse to follow federal law. So make this conversation viral, because guess what? Black America is going to feel the brunt of this. Folks, we got to take a quick, my producers are mad at me, but we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's shift gears. Let's talk about the GOP debate. And it's going to be happening tonight, folks. Are you going to watch what's going to happen? We're going to have that conversation up next. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
For decades, the tobacco industry has deliberately targeted Black communities and kids with marketing for menthol cigarettes. It's had a devastating impact on Black health. Tobacco use claims 45,000 Black lives every year. It's the #1 cause of preventable death. In the 1950s, less than 10% of Black smokers used menthol cigarettes. Today, it's 85%. Menthol cools and numbs the throat, making it easier for kids to start smoking. Menthol also increases addiction, making it harder for smokers to quit. Menthol cigarettes are a big reason why Black Americans have a harder time quitting smoking and die at higher rates from smoking-related diseases like cancer, heart disease, and stroke. It's time to stop Big Tobacco from profiting off Black lives. An FDA ban on menthol cigarettes will improve Black health, save lives, and protect future generations from addiction. Learn more at tobaccofreekids.org/ban menthol.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Man, oh man, if you missed the first hour of the show, we went a little bit over, but we had to talk about it. The first hour, we talked about the CSPOA, which is the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, how this group of right-wing sheriffs are slowly influencing sheriff's department across the country as they're looking to challenge federal law for a number of things, and why this is setting a dangerous precedent for law enforcement. That conversation happened. Our sister Suzette Speaks, bringing a lot of context, a lot of great information. We bring in a lot of insight and analysis of this. We want you to make sure that y'all take a look at that. And again, if you think that that conversation is necessary, then make it viral. Share the show on all of our platforms. Cut it up. Do what you want to do with it, but make sure we get the information out there as that first part of that discussion. So many people may not have known about this, but we need to let our peoples know. So make sure y'all be a part of Team Replay and show us your love and support, and share the video, share all of the content that we share here on the Black Star Network, specifically here on The Culture. And big shout out to all of the Culture crew that is checking in right now. We're streaming live on Amazon News. We're streaming live on Plex TV. We're streaming live on Facebook. We're streaming live on YouTube under Roland Martin's YouTube page. And so many of you have been checking in. New watchers, we truly, truly appreciate you. We also have gotten new supporters. Robin Welch, my sister, thank you so much for coming in as another Bring the Phone fan club level 1 supporter. So we truly, truly appreciate you for that. But folks, we want you to support us as this work and this information, this content, you will find nowhere else other than here on the Black Star Network. So your support means the world to us. And certainly we can't say this enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your support. All right, folks, let's talk about the GOP debate that's going to be happening tonight. Are you planning to watch? This is the first debate as 8 GOP candidates, Republican candidates, are looking to start the journey of becoming the Republican nominee for the presidential debate, for the presidential election for next year. Now, one big part of this debate is the simple fact that former President Donald Trump, 4 times indicted, 2 times impeached former president, will not be at this debate. And there's some rumblings that he may not even show up at any GOP debate. But he is feeling very confident and secure as still being, even after all of the legal cases and everything that's happening, he's still considered to be the front runner for the Republican Party. He has decided to not show be president at tonight's debate as he's looking to do a interview with Tucker Carlson. I guess to talk about his legal issues, talk about other stuff, but he does not plan to be at the debate, leaving 8 other candidates to try to vie for the support of the Republican Party. Let me get my sister Suzette Speaks on back into the frame. Suzette, we're asking the question, will you watch the debate? Now, I know you're a Politico, so this is an easy part.
This feel like my job.
You're going to have to, like, I'm going to have to, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't have anything better to do on a Wednesday night, right? I could be catching up on Narcos or something.
I have to, but yeah.
But people are trying to figure out, like, because this is political theater. When you have very real situations like what we talk about with the sheriff's department and everything, like, and then if anyone has been following any of the candidates, whether it's former Vice President Mike Pence, whether it's Chris Christie, former governor of New Jersey, whether it's what's the guy, the Indian candidate,
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Right, Vivek Ramaswamy. You got Tim Scott. Who else do we got up there? Oh yes, of course. We can't forget your favorite governor,
Nikki Haley. Yes,
Nikki Haley. Governor Ron DeSantis, your favorite governor.
Oh Lord. What? This is gonna
but what should folks expect from this first debate to kind of, as the country kind of sees who's on the ticket on the GOP side? What are your expectations?
So I will just kind of preface this by saying, again, I'm watching it more so again as kind of like, critical observer and thinker towards what this means for our country. Of course, when it comes to differences of opinion, sometimes we kind of get siloed and no one wants to hear what the other side has to say. I've seen the comments in the chat, but I'm going to watch just to see what's going on. And when I said thank you for watching, I meant this show. Okay. So it is quite interesting. Again, people had to qualify for this. There are even more candidates in those top 8 that qualified. And again, it's excluding former President Trump. Now we know why he's not coming, because the target would be on his back. First and foremost, he sucks the air out of the room. So it is going to loom large that he's not going to be right there in the middle of the stage when he polls the highest among primary voters. In just a poll taken yesterday in Iowa, he leads by more than 50%. At this stage of campaigns for the past 25 years, maybe 20 years on the Republican side, no one has had this type of lead that former President Trump has and has lost. So he is sitting in what they call the catbird seat, where everybody has to play catch up to him. So really, in my opinion, this is like a vice presidential debate, honestly, because it depends on what the trials yield and all the cases, the 4 indictments that he has going on. Again, you couldn't put him in front of the mic if you were his attorney, because he just gonna say whatever. And you also know you have people like Chris Christie that's gonna come gunning for him and is going to say what needs to be said. So he actually loses more. The American people lose by not hearing from him, but he's saying, I've been president. The people know who I am, and there's no reason for me to, come on this stage. It's almost like he gives them legitimacy, but I think it actually could serve in a kind of positive spin by actually getting to know the other people in case something does happen.
That's a good point.
His indictments.
I can go with that.
And so we got to start to dig in to who these people could possibly be that could win a Republican nomination. In theory, if something happens, now something very large would have to happen, but we still need to know who else would play major roles, possibly on a ticket as a VP or within the administration. I tell people a lot of times, people run for office, maybe they don't want to be president, but they want to be a cabinet member or an ambassador or some other member within our government. So we have to pay attention to what's going on.
All right, let me ask you a key question, Suzette. Y'all ready for this? Y'all ready? I gotta ask this
I
question.
don't know where
Real
this is
talk.
going, Farajii. Go ahead.
No, I know you don't know where this is going, but you handle these these questions so well. So, what is Trump's actual platform?
Farajii. Well,
no, I'm saying that, and maybe rhetorically, you don't have to answer it. I'm just saying,
yeah,
that a lot of what we're talking about, and I'm saying with him and his relationship to the other candidates, I've at least seen some semblance of an agenda, some semblance of a platform, right? But when it comes to him, it's all reactionary to what he has either done or who he is, and not based upon his vision for America.
Absolutely. I think that's a very, very, strong assessment. Many would agree with you. Others would even tag along the fact that perhaps it is just to ensure that he keeps his freedom if he sees a conviction on the federal cases, so that it has become, the Trump show in terms of his legal peril, as opposed to, as you described it, the future of the country. I think it would be very difficult for someone to say, what does Trump really stand for besides the MAGA, right? The Make America Great Again slogan. But what does that
I don't know what that is now. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that is.
For who?
I'm gonna be honest. Like, I don't know what that is. Even look, y'all remember you remember now when he was campaigning to get into office the first time, he said certain things like, and I remember Brother Roland talking about like covering him throughout the campaign. He was saying he spoke to black people. I remember that infamous speech, "What do you got to lose?" when he was talking to our people, right? And it was like he did have something, but now it just doesn't feel that way. It feels like it's a sideshow, a circus act, more so than a candidate who's running for office. Like, I don't know. And people be like, "Oh, Trump 2024. And we've had folks coming in the chat. I don't mind you coming in chat and say 2024.
Even on Shade Room, when they post him and I see all these comments, I'm like, are these Russian bots? Who is
right? It might be bots, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
What is his agenda? How is he planning to move America forward? We all know about MAGA. We get that. I'm saying, what is his agenda? What is his take on where we are 4 years after his presidency? We're in a different place. In just 4 years, the country has already changed. Yeah. So what is his agenda? So that's my question to folks that are like, "Oh, it's Trump 2024. What are you standing for? What are we? Are you talking about abortion? Are you talking about education? Or are you talking about Black history? I mean, what are we talking about here, right?" So that's part of it. Now, the other thing is, and I want to get your political opinion on this, as a GOP candidate, do you attack Trump? Because somebody, like Mike Pence, has to be one of the most, this guy, he flip-flops more than flip-flops. You know what I mean?
Spineless and all these other
oh my
God. Republicans and Democrats.
So do you, I mean, would you, if you were advising and I'm not saying you are y'all, Suzette is not working for the GOP. She does not work for the GOP. So what I'm asking, would you advise your candidate to attack Trump?
I think in this space,
because Chris Christie, I think he's gonna go for it. I think Chris Christie, he gonna
pop. He coming for his comeback, right? Trump tried him like during that whole election cycle when, oh man, little Marco Rubio.
But see, even that though,
yeah,
that was your homeboy back in the day.
Yes. When you look,
they ain't no friends in politics. They ain't no friends. They ain't no friends.
The people that he going on trial with, now what? Now what? Try them if you want to. They're going to be, co-conspirators and potentially, damning witnesses, depending on what they disclose. All them attorneys, there's strange bedfellows, as we say in politics.
Yeah.
My friend today, my enemy tomorrow, my friend again the next day. So when it comes to your question as to whether or not I would attack him, it depends on which candidate. I think someone like a Tim Scott, who is the, jolly warrior, a peaceful warrior, I guess is kind of his persona. He's very forward about his faith, his Christian faith, never been married, no kids, but coming from a perspective of, will America want a more upbeat, less divisive candidate? Maybe he sticks to his lane of being positive and talking about his dream and how he's been able to live the American dream. I don't see Nikki Haley doing it. Her former ambassador that has made statements. Now, I think the fourth indictment kind of chipped away at the armor, so people feel a little bit more empowered. I mean, his opposition feels a little bit more empowered to say a little more. I've seen, Ron DeSantis say a little bit more, maybe that he was lying about the election, even like we discussed last week, the local Georgia officials saying a little bit, okay, nope, there is a, this was not a bad or stolen election. So I think maybe a couple of them, it will work for them, but I don't think a lot of them, this will be like almost an introduction, especially for us on the mainstream side, the independents and the Democrats. We may not be as familiar with the Vivek Ramaswamy as, an entrepreneur, turned presidential candidate. He wanted to be in podcasting and other things. And what does he really stand for? I don't think a lot of them are going to come, except for like maybe some DeSantis, because he has to differentiate himself. He's been slipping. But when you look at polls now that talk about first, second, or third, who would you place as, the top of your choices for president nominee and going on? There's a little bit more wiggle room. Trump obviously stays at the top in a very, very comfortable position. But then you see that people wouldn't mind if you're picking out of three places a DeSantis, maybe even a Tim Scott or a Nikki Haley. So a lot of decisions are, it's early again with the type of lead he has. Again, among primary voters, when you look at the broader polls, the country as a whole, you see Mr. Trump's favorability start to drop down. Again, you will ask questions about and see polls with regards to, are these cases serious? Yes. Should he be running? You see some kind of shift now to, wait a minute, if there are four now, there may be some there, right? So I don't think you're going to see maybe some, as they say, guns blazing for Mr. Trump. Maybe it'll be their time because he can't answer back to come through hard hitting. But I think, especially from the likes of Chris Christie, he has that type of temperament. He was just in Miami not even a week ago at Versailles, where the Cuban American kind of landmark for us, and talking all kind of crap, got booed a little bit. But, things have to be said that will, as you are pointing out, bring the electorate back to reality. What are you voting for? What is he going to actually do? Besides the entertainment value, why are you so interested in him? What has he done? And, there are so many more questions that need to be answered. So I do hope they do at least pick at some of the obvious outside of just the indictments. Of course, those are super important as well. But we'll see. Absolutely. It's going to depend on the moderators, too, what they ask.
And this is presented by CNN. So, not CNN. Fox News, right. So it's pretty interesting.
9 o'clock,
folks.
9 o'clock Eastern.
Yes, folks are going to be checking it, and the folks and Keena, let me know if we're going to be streaming it on here on Black Star Network in some case or form. We got to take a quick pause, but folks, I want to share when we come forward. I would love to hear what your take is on this crew. Are you planning to watch the GOP debate tonight? Are you planning to watch these 8 Republican candidates try to differentiate themselves outside of Trump, with Trump, but they're just simply trying to differentiate themselves? We're talking about that right now. Post your comments. Folks have already started doing it, but post your comments, and then we'll certainly bring it up to the light on the other side. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is rmartin unfiltered. Venmo is RM unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about the upcoming GOP debate that's happening tonight, folks. That's going to be hosted by Fox News. And this is the debate for the 8 Republican presidential candidates that are looking to differentiate themselves and stand out from the pack as they're all seeking the great Republican nomination. There they are right there, folks. And the person that you don't see, of course, is President Trump, former President Donald Trump. He's not going to be there. He's going to be busy having an interview. But he is going to be one of those individuals. He's going to be like the elephant in the room that everybody is going to try. Was that a laugh? Was that a...
I ain't laughing. This is serious.
No, you're laughing, Suzanne.
Serious business.
I was trying to say that. I had some thoughts in my head on how that was going to come out, but I was just like, all right, just say elephant in the room for Roger.
Yes,
but he's not going to be present. But as we talk about this, Suzanne, I think that it's important that we do watch the debate, right? Like, I get it. Like, some people see it as political theater. Some people will take it as fodder or whatever the case may be. But here's something that I know we cannot take for granted. We cannot assume that every black man and woman in Black America, and I'm not even going to say every, that a majority of black men and black women in Black America will vote Democrat. We can't assume that. And to your point, you are not a victim. You said the reality is most people won't vote for any candidate that is not an established Democrat, e.g. President Biden. It does matter who is running. That's not true. That is not true. Listen, I was literally in a CVS last night, and I heard a black man who was a security guard talking to his coworkers at CVS saying, "Oh my gosh, my stocks are suffering." And a Latino employee said, "Talk to your president." This is how he said it, Suzanne. "Talk to your president about the stock prices and you losing stock in your 401k." He said, "Talk to your president." And they both said it. They said, the black man said, "My president, this president, he's a joke. Biden is a joke." And then the Latino brother said, "Yeah, he's not. He's an idiot." The black man went on to say, "We were better off when Trump was in office." Now, this brother had to be probably in his 50s, right?
Yeah.
He got a 401k, he said. He got stock options. I'm not going to assume that just because you are an older black man that you're going to automatically cast your ballot for a Democrat. That you can't make that assumption. that there is going to be some appeal to the Republican Party for black folks, whether it's an appeal because of Tim Scott, whether it's an appeal because they're talking about economics, whether it's an appeal they're talking about social justice, that some black folks are like, yeah, I'm tired of the talk around Black Lives Matter. They're bop, 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 or I'm tired of this. And we can't make the assumption. I truly believe that this is not going to just be a test for white America. This is going to be a test for black America as well. Because black folks, we are just not, I know everybody said we're not monolithic, but we really are not on the same page about a lot of these things, right? And I think now we're becoming more and more, the culture is becoming more individualistic, that a lot of black men and some black women are looking at how can my vote lead to my personal betterment versus how can my vote lead to our collective betterment. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to make the assumption that, oh my gosh, these are going to be a bunch of idiots and that nobody's going to listen to them. Trust and believe black folks are looking, because if we can't find a home under the Democratic Party, guess where we are moving to?
Right.
Am I saying something wrong, Suzanne?
No, this is
talk to me.
When it comes to the Democratic Party, both on, and I work with the Florida Democrats, as well as local Democrats, whether it's Miami or Broward or Palm Beach. The issue I have with Democrats a lot of times is messaging. When we look at some of the major legislation, one thing that President Biden is a master at is getting his colleagues in the Congress to work together to pass legislation. When we talk about some of the funding that's going to start coming down the pike, first we had Build Back Better, and then we had a 1-year anniversary of another major piece of funding legislation that is going to go through, this infrastructure bill, as we call it. I'm talking about millions of taxpayer dollars that are going to stream into states that Republicans, many of which voted against, will stand up when the bridge gets built, when the road gets redone, when the library or whatever else is funded through this major funding legislation. They'll stand up and take a picture that, I was a part of this, and take credit for things that they actively fought against. So when it comes to, the average Joe sitting in the CVS or wherever talking about politics, it is always our burden, especially those who are actively engaged in the process, to help to educate those who are, again, maybe single source, political viewers, and who may be in their own silo or bubble. It is very challenging, but it's something that we have to become used to in understanding how people get their information and how to reach people outside of, the typical, CNN.com or the news that comes on in the evening. Evening news is not what, people make of it, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Everybody sat down and actually understood what was happening. We read a newspaper on Sunday, got the day, etc. So it does not surprise me when it comes to, certain talking points, how much better our, Republican counterparts are at spinning, at creating the messaging that seems to make sense. Weren't you better on Trump? Now people don't even remember what was going on sometimes, and how most of the decisions that were made from a local government perspective, does not impact necessarily the same way that, the Fed, who is the monetary, policy making body of the United States, what they do when it comes to monetary policy. And a lot of people don't understand how a lot of Wall Street can lock up on you as president if they're not a fan of you or your policies. So money can be spent. All of a sudden you see a bunch of construction when certain people are in office. And then all of a sudden you see some of the bigger players pull their money back out of the system. There's a lot of parts that are moving. And to say that, again, people see president and they think that he has the ultimate power to do any and everything. But we don't hear enough about what Biden really has done, which is a great deal. So I think in course correcting some of what you heard in that conversation, again, in the past presidential election, we saw Black women vote Democrat 90% and up. We saw Black men vote Democrat 80% and up, depending on your state, etc. So we have always trended, again, in recent history in that way. But we do have to be very careful with how we can help educate the public through our messaging, and ensure that we are trying new ways, innovative ways to reach people where they are, because there's an education gap. I know we didn't get to talk about, our system kind of imploding based on education about how people vote for people blindly and don't even know who they're voting for.
Yeah, we got to talk about that. Yeah, right.
The point of that, and I was getting ready for that conversation, but the point of my saying all this is that this is an educational piece that both parties, again, need to be doing. But I think the Republicans have had for quite some time an advantage of how to touch the public zeitgeist when it comes to what's happening and relate it back to something that is easily understandable for people to take a soundbite or a meme and think is fact. And, they're so much better at that. And I think the Democrats have had always, especially in like the last 20 years, the messaging has been, Barack Obama did something where, we saw that traction in terms of messaging, but not as of late have I seen the Biden administration do as much as I think they can be doing so that people understand. Like, he'll have a press conference. Oh, it's been a year since the last infrastructure bill, and look at all this money that we've spent in the states and what has it gone to and what has happened. But people are not hearing it, so it's easier for them to identify quickly what Trump, quote unquote, did.
Very quickly, and I know we got to take another pause.
Yeah.
The part of it is simply because Barack Obama, is an inspirational leader.
Yeah.
He inspires us. He gets us emotionally involved, right? That was one of the big things about his campaign as a campaign. Like, he could talk to us and we feel certain type of thing. President Joe Biden is not the most inspirational leader. He's a guy that gets down to policy. And when you talk about policy of government, it's not sexy.
No.
It's not, it's not like, it's like, and I think it's like the best person I could think of. Y'all remember Tim Duncan? He was a fundamental basketball player. He wasn't the flashy type.
No showboat with my brother.
He's Mr. Fundamental, right? It's that he gets it done. That's how Biden approaches politics. I think it's like he's like, I got to get this done, and the policies aren't going to jump out at you. He sees it, he believes in it, right? But it's not like. And I think that's part of the American political culture, is that we're looking for emotional stuff. So when we're like, the reason that Trump is so popular is because he calls on some emotional part of it. Whether you like him or whether you love him or hate him, that's an emotion. Like, I hate this dude, but you've been like emotionally attached to the madness, right? So that's why he can come into a debate and not talk about one policy piece at all, Suzanne. The man ain't got to talk about policy, because emotionally, he's like, I just want to see him mess up. I just want him to ain't nothing about policy.
He's your hero emotion. Or your villain. And again,
right, he's your hero or your villain. And guess what?
I know we got to take
a break.
Guess what? Yes, go ahead.
We got to take a break. But guess what? Hero or villain, you're still going to tune in.
Exactly. And remember that in the latest polls, almost all Americans don't want either Mr. Trump or Ms. Biden. So we got to take a break.
We got to take a quick pause. Me and Suzette just going all over the place. Stay with us. There's more to come at you here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Checking in with my sister Suzette Speak, talking about the GOP debate that's going to be happening tonight. And Suzette got her popcorn. She's got all types of, she's going to be talking about it. But the question we're asking is, are you watching? But here's the thing, very quickly, because people are like, there are some people in the chat who are saying that they're going to watch. You know, it's understandable. But then there's another group of folks that are talking about, third party candidate. Earlier this week, on Monday, Suzette, we talked about former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan talking about the No Labels campaign and how they're looking to, put up a third alternative candidate if it comes down to Biden and Trump. So that's you have all types of dynamics going into this first debate. But let me just say, I understand, look, I vote in elections, folks. I vote. But I understand people who don't want to vote. I think one of the big things about us and having conversations about politics is that we can't keep working from a space of, it's like the old school preacher who taught fire and brimstone to get us to believe in the goodness of God. And how that affected us. And here's why I bring that example of that and use that analogy. Because we still use the same fear tactics in politics today. If a person chooses not to vote, if they just choose not to be a part of the political system in some way, does that make them stupid? Or does that make them true and authentic to their own interest? If they find that there's no candidate that they truly have faith in, that they truly can believe in, a candidate that doesn't speak to who they are and what they want to see in this country, and they say, you know what, I'm going to abstain, then can we truly get mad at a person for being in tune with how they see the world? Because then if it becomes down to this fire and brimstone in terms of a political context, you don't vote, this is going to happen. And it's like, but I get it, but at the same time, you're insulting people. I think this is just Farajii speaking. You're telling the grown-ass adult that they don't know or they can't make their own decisions. And that doesn't empower people to get involved. That turns people away. I said it, damn it.
I agree with you on the you don't
see that. I know you said like
fire and brimstone people to the polls. I agree with that part. But I would only offer that a lot of people who don't vote, I find, just in my experience here in Miami, there is an informational and educational gap that often underlies why they don't, quote, trust the system.
Yeah.
And I too invite, personal expression. But when I hear it, oftentimes it's not really based on facts. It's based on feelings and propaganda.
But here's the question, though. Hold on, Suzette. Can I interject something here?
Please.
Does voting, just because you vote, does that mean that you are more informed as a person, or are you? And I'm not saying that you specifically.
No. In general, no. And I'm saying
in general, you know what I'm saying? Does the voter?
I agree with you, but the statement was made about people having the right not to. So just to address that alone, I don't see oftentimes real reasons or factually based, informed reasons why people don't want to. I often find it tied to being uninformed, or in a way, again, kind of tuned in to different types of propaganda that leads to folks not seeing the bigger picture, and even an educational gap when it comes to the knowledge of civics and how the government and voting, in fact, works in your favor. So when I think about sometimes why I don't see that, I'm not saying that because you do vote, you're always informed. I'm just saying when we say everybody has a right not to engage, I oftentimes see that unengagement or non-engagement tied to a lack of, serious information and understanding of the process.
I understand.
You knock on the door and you ask a person why they haven't voted, you have a real conversation. I've seen in real.
I agree. And the same thing on the other side. I've seen both sides. Like if you ask a person, well, why did you vote? Well, I like the way their family is. Or you know what I'm saying? There's something more superficial. Now, not to say that they don't have policies. And I'm just throwing this out there because I know this is a part of the conversation, because when we look at this debate this evening, this is the stuff that we have to think about. And, I think I'm going to hold this part of the discussion until next week, because I want to have a conversation with you on the platform, Suzette, to talk about how we can look at the piece I wanted us to talk about earlier today, which is about, are elections good for democracy? That's the big question. And there's so much, and I don't want to have it specifically with you because you're my sister. So I'm gonna hold that one until next week. But there are so many different factors that we have to look into it. Look, I encourage people to watch the show, to watch the debate tonight. Really take a look. It's not, and I know many of our crewmen, they're like, I gotta see what the other side is thinking. You know what I'm saying?
Or
like,
hold your nose and just watch it,
watch it. Because see, here's the thing. It's not about the individual candidate as a personality. It's about the system that we are all a part of. And we can really, really see how far this system has gotten off track from truly being a system for the people, by the people. That's what I'm looking at. That's the metric. Are we looking at personality? Because no one personality can save democracy. And I think that we have to keep that in mind. Like, as much as we love Barack Obama, he could not save democracy. If you love Biden, he cannot save democracy. You know who saves democracy? Us, the people. And so, it's a lot to put on a candidate, which is why I wanted to have that part of the conversation. It's a lot to put on a candidate to say, oh my gosh, this is going to be the savior of our government. When in its president, it's not set up that way. So it's a lot to consider. So we're gonna certainly talk about it more. But folks, watch the debate. Watch what they have to say. Hear them out. Listen to it. But trust and believe is that Black America is going to be watching, and everybody ain't going to have the type of, oh man, these are a bunch of idiots. Some of our people are going to be watching simply because they want an alternative, and it may come in the form of a Tim Scott, Chris Christie, Nikki Haley, whoever is up on that podium, and we're going to have to learn how to deal with it. We got to take one more final break. When we come back, can we give a big shout out to Sha'Carri Richardson real quick? Can we talk about our sister?
Let's do it.
All right, we'll do that. Stay with us. It's the Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, for our final conversation for today's show. What a show it has been. I don't know why Suzette always brings the heat and drama. Every time she comes on, it doesn't fail. For our final conversation, let's talk about Sha'Carri Richardson. Is she one of the best?
Sha'Carri.
Oh, Sha'Carri. I'm sorry. She did say that. It's Carrie. On her Twitter, it's Carrie.
Yes.
I was like, oh, okay. Okay, sister. So sorry. No, I understand the correction. Because people will call me all types of names that my mother never gave me. Sha'Carri Richardson, is she one of the best comeback stories in sports? Of course, on Monday, our sister, who was dragged through social media just a couple of years ago because of her her demonstration for the Olympics and her talk around the use of marijuana and cannabis. She has now, 2 years later, she stamps a comeback with a 100-meter world title and essentially making herself the fastest woman in the world, beating out Jamaican runners. She beat out Jamaican Sha'Carri Jackson and Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, the defending world champion, to win with a time of 10.65 seconds. Woo!
Yes.
Sha'Carri Richardson is back in action.
Yes.
Is she one of the best comeback stories in sports, according to you, Suzette?
Absolutely. When I watched this live, I didn't watch no replay, and I was.
You actually caught it? Because she ran fast.
I'm very big on, again, my parents are from Jamaica. Okay, full disclosure, proud American, best of both worlds. But when it comes to track and field, I might be a little partial when it comes to the Jamaicans. So when I was watching, I was twisting, screaming, run, gal, run, gal, run. I was like, because everybody's eyes were in the middle of the track where Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price and Sha'Carri Jackson were really competing with each other. But the improbable win, when you look at how she ran the semis, Sha'Carri did not have a good semifinal. She had to qualify on time, meaning the top two finishers each semi get through, then the next fastest. She was a time qualifier. No one has ever done that and won a race. In addition, she had the worst lane drop because she qualified by time. She was on the outside in lane 9. But that was her blessing, oh God, because the middle, I felt, now y'all could be mad, they didn't run through the finish line like they normally do because they was watching each other. But if you look at the video, when that race stopped and they turned to the right and they seen her out the corner of her eye, nobody was even paying attention to her. And she ran full out. The 200-meter training that she has helped her tremendously because she accelerates in the 100 when she gets to the finish line. But this is one of the top 5 fastest times ever that a woman has ran. She is now, crowned officially fastest woman of 2023 in the world. So we are proud of her. You could see the shock and awe on her face when she won, the genuine surprise, like I did it. And she was calling, the pictures you could see afterwards, Miss Shelly, as she calls her, Shelly-Ann Fraser, someone she says she looked up to in her post-race conference, and how much it meant to her just to kind of be embraced by the Jamaicans. I know we've had a rough rivalry, more so to people online, but the sportsmanship that all the ladies showed and the demonstration of respect and genuine love and happiness for her, I think was one of the hallmarks of this moment. Again, real redemption for her. Proud of her. She has come a long way, as you said, through her suspension. Wasn't able to go to the Olympics because she tested positive for cannabis, and had a rough upbringing in general. Grandma passed, all of this going on. Grandma who helped raise her, and people. Again, she's not the regular quote unquote. What should I say? Poster child for what America likes when it comes to their heroines, especially Black heroines.
You don't think so?
Oh man, her tats, her hair, her wigs,
but she got a hell of a story though.
Well, exactly. But she makes some people uncomfortable. So to see her stand in her truth and represent finally, not with the talk, with the walk, with the action. Hats off. Congratulations. We love you, Sha'Carri. Keep it going, sis. Can't wait to see more of her in the future.
And guess what? She's still unapologetic.
No,
she's still herself.
Yes.
And I bet you behind closed doors, she may not say it. I mean, she may say it because this is Sha'Carri Richardson, right? She might be like, to all y'all haters.
Oh, she knows. She said
she's just raising up the finger. You know what I mean? Like,
she's not worried about the world. The world turned their back on her. And she still had to live with herself and love herself and believe in herself. And she proved such resilience to come back in this fashion and make the statement she did on the track. Right? It was amazing to watch. And again, she's so young. And remember, you got to look at Shelly Ann Fraser in her mid-30s. Sharika will be 30 coming up. She got a lot more in the tank, y'all. So I can't wait for her to represent. It makes the rivalry even sweeter.
Hey, look, sometimes people get real absent-minded. And all the folks that loved her then, love her now, they may not have loved her then. But
smack.
They talk smack. If I was her, I would take a list of names, Suzette. I'd be like,
no new friends, y'all. No new friends. But here it is now.
Get on Twitter and just get on threads and everything. Just fire off.
She don't have to be petty now. She don't have to be petty.
She does. She has every right to be petty because people really crapped on the system, man. People really crapped on the system. You know what I'm saying? And she does. She has every right to be petty, and more importantly, she earned it. Nobody gave her a leg up. She went back within herself and she pulled winner out of herself and she redefined herself and she earned it. So I wouldn't be mad. Yes. I wouldn't be mad Sha'Carri Richardson just told everybody, y'all can just kiss my...
She already know they know. All that smack y'all was talking, look at me now. She don't have to say
it.
That's my thing. Take the high road. What Michelle Obama say, when they go low, we go high. So don't worry about all that. But I hope she make more money. Let's go in.
Oh, yeah.
All that other stuff.
Yesterday's price.
That's right.
Is not price. Let's go. I am happy for this sister. I'm going to dedicate a whole show on Saturday to this on my channel. So y'all get ready. But no.
All right, there we go. Perfect segue. Hey, look, we gotta go because we our time has been so well spent with my sister. I love talking to her, y'all, and I hope that y'all enjoy the conversation that we have with her. Very quickly, Suzette, your show is coming up on. You say on Saturday you're going to be doing something special on this.
Guys, 5,000 subs, and we going hard on Saturday. I simulcast on Jamaicans.com. for a special show dedicated to this historic win for Sha'Carri Richardson. But thank y'all for the support.
There we go.
Come on over and subscribe.
There we go, right there. Hey, y'all, make sure y'all follow my sister from another mother, Suzette Speaks, on all social media platforms. She is so supportive of the work that we do here on the Black Star Network and the culture. And so she has made this show even better. So I am always grateful for her insight, her intelligence, in terms of all around just fantastic spirit. So make sure y'all follow my sister, man.
Farajii. Thank you.
I'm just being real. I enjoy Wednesdays. You get us through the hump. So thank you. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all. Suzette, thank you so much for being on the show and being so good for the culture.
Thank you. See you next week.
Absolutely. See you next week. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you. Man, so many new faces, new voices that checked in on our chat on Roland Martin's YouTube page. Make sure y'all continue to keep the conversation going. Of course, at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, RMU is going to be coming at you right here on Black Star Network. Bro, I want to thank all of the Culture crew for being a part of the conversation. I want to thank my production team. I want to thank Joel, Shannon, Maddie, Chris, and my man King Keenan for making me look and sound good. Folks, continue to support us here on Black Star Network. Your support means everything to us, so your support, it goes a long way. And we want to give another big shout out because folks always show their support. Trying to get this in very, very quickly, but we had another subscriber, Merrill Thompson. Merrill, thank you so much for coming in on the Bring the Funk Fan Club Level 1. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We truly, truly appreciate it. Make sure you download the app for free on all of your devices. Follow us on social media. And again, when those notifications come up on Facebook, on YouTube, make sure y'all let your friends and family know. Also, follow me on social media. You can find me at The Real Farajii on Instagram, Farajii on Twitter, Farajii Muhammad on Facebook, and The Real Farajii on Threads. I would love to connect with you, and I appreciate the ongoing support. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will be back tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Thank you for tuning in. Peace.